Hello, worldies, and welcome back to my naughty little channel. I hope you are all doing so wonderful and amazing. Today, I want to do a follow up to a video that I made recently. I'm going to put it in the cards here. Maybe I'll put it on the screen or something. But I was talking about the psychology of why we experience social isolation or social loneliness while on a level up journey. But today I want to talk about not just why, but I want to talk about why it's a good thing. So, in that video, I talked a lot about the in between phase, so to speak, of being where you're starting out, like where you are and where you want to be, and how uncomfortable that can be, why you end up there, and all of these different things. And what I noticed was in the comment section, even before when a video like that was kind of requested, I noticed that a lot of my audience, a lot of my worldies, some of you seem like you're still in the phase where you haven't yet recognized it as a blessing. Now, some of you were reflecting in the comments saying that, like, yes, that's a good thing and everything. And I kind of want to take it a step further to kind of explain a lot of the benefits of like why this ends up being a good thing. So I feel like for a lot of people, why they perceive it to be a bad thing is because in their most leveled up life, for most people, I would say, whether it's that you're extroverted or introverted, most people, their dream life does not involve loneliness, especially not social loneliness. And so it can make people feel like maybe they're like failing socially, but oftentimes, it's more so evidence that your identity is changing a lot faster than your environment. So, the thing about it is that social loneliness is not a punishment. A lot of people in that video I was talking about, running back to the comfort of, your leveled down self, your old habits, old people, and things like that. And that's because a lot of times it feels like a punishment. You know, and I want to help you guys reframe this so you can make it through this phase and get to where you're trying to go. That social loneliness is not a punishment. It's a transitional state. It's a filtering mechanism. It's a whole nervous system recalibration. And above all, it's a protective season. For many people, they think of that social loneliness as emptiness. And there is sometimes, because what we're familiar with when it comes to loneliness, it does feel a bit empty. That's probably how you feel before you actually start leveling up. When you start feeling uncomfortable or unseen and everything in your environment, you start feeling like you can't really relate to people. Maybe the topics that they want to talk about or the habits that they have, they just don't seem to resonate with you anymore. And so it starts to feel a bit empty if you're kind of doing this charade, acting like you still enjoy it, acting like you still care about all of those things, and kind of not wanting to rock the boat, so to speak. But social loneliness on a level up journey actually has a function. And the only reason that so many of us are able to congregate here and share about this, and the reason that you're able to even find videos like this around the internet, is because it is a common experience. And that's not by accident, that's not by mistake. It is on purpose. There is a function. It is part of the system. It's part of the journey. So I'm going to try to number off these points that I have. So number one, talking about the functions of the social loneliness. So this is why it's a good thing. Number one, it creates distance from constant social conditioning. And this was I feel like one of the easiest things for me to kind of experience and get behind. Because the thing is, like, in your old life, or even if you're on day one of your level up journey as you're hearing this, and this is the first video that you've ever heard of mine, first time you're hearing my voice, this is the perfect video for you. And then if you're not on day one, you're in it, you're in the thick of it, that's even better, because that means that you should be able to relate to this, and hopefully you can see some of these things around you and you can experience this. So in your old life, whatever your point A is, you're going to be constantly surrounded by old friends, old dynamics, old maybe toxic partners, stagnant environments, and people who are invested in your old identity. I've used that specific word invested before to kind of talk about this. When we talk about people who are basically like trying to sabotage you and me, like kind of talking about the discomfort that people will have, why your level up journey is so tough and triggering for people. It's because they are literally invested in your old identity. It makes them feel more comfortable. It, it reinforces that there is no problem with what they're doing or whatever limiting belief somebody has. Like, yeah, well, I'm dusty and I'm obese and I'm leveled down because I'm poor. And then if you are somebody who's like starting on the level up journey, let's say you also were in poverty and then you are starting to make different decisions, all of a sudden you start cracking through this limiting belief that they have or this excuse that they're using to stay where they are. So now whatever rule they're using, oh, well, I have to be this because I'm Black. I have to be this because I'm from XYZ town. I have to be this because of this is, my social economic status. And they're blaming the elites and they're blaming the 1% and they're blaming the celebrities and the influencers and all of these people hanging out behind the curtain. When you start to change and level up, it makes them very uncomfortable. But the thing is, if you've already made it past putting that distance between you and those people, and now you're in the thick of the social loneliness, the social isolation, what you're going to realize is, for example, when I talk, I've talked on this channel multiple times about food pushing. Like, oh, you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to become healthier, and you have somebody, whether it's a friend, whether it's a coworker, whoever it is, somebody who just keeps trying to get you to eat more food. They keep trying to get you to consume more calories than you need. They keep wanting a partner in crime for their big back activities. This can be, whatever this is, where people are constantly trying to push you in or keep pulling you into a certain behavior. When you put up that wall, whether that is choosing to self-isolate, whether that's choosing to move, whether that's choosing to disengage, whether that's choosing to, just kind of keep it to highs and buys with people, whatever that looks like, when you start putting up, whether it's like physical distance or it's energetic distance, whatever that is between those, those people that don't serve you anymore, those things, those dynamics, those environments that don't serve you, you'll start to notice this stillness and this quiet. It's a lot easier to stay true to your goals when you are not constantly being discouraged from having set goals. So it's like if you're lonely, but the people that you previously had in your life were the people who were actively, participating in behaviors, and whether or not you're aware, we're always being socially conditioned. If you're not the type of person who's reflecting, who's paying attention, who's very aware of certain things, then you may be unaware of the fact that that's happening, but you are always being socially conditioned. Whether or not people mean to do it, it can be as simple as the type of humor somebody has. It can be as simple as like the type of music somebody always wants to play when you're around them. It can be, conversation topics, anything like that. Ideas that people express casually, judgments that they make casually. All of these things are playing into your social conditioning. And 9 times out of 10, if you feel as though you've outgrown that environment, that relationship, that dynamic, then that means that whatever that social conditioning is, it basically is creating resistance against the new social conditioning that you're trying to have. And so getting those things out of your way, those people, places, things, whatever, getting them out of the way makes it so that you are now, like you have this buffer in between that conditioning. For example, there are a lot of people who may have this belief that, for example, people who believe in a second puberty, people who have this limiting belief of, at a certain age, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just going to get fatter, and that's just, it's just second puberty. That's what it is. That belief in and of itself is social conditioning. People who believe there's a certain event in life that dictates and, makes it such that you must now let yourself go. If you're in that environment, that is social conditioning, whether or not you're aware of it. And when you're not around those things, it is so beneficial because it's literally like when you we know that it's so beneficial to have like a coach, a mentor, people who are encouraging and supporting you, how much that can make the difference. Yet sometimes we don't realize how much it holds us back to be around those people, places, and things that are reinforcing outdated beliefs, outdated social conditioning. It's like, okay, over there in your world, you're not the top 1%, and so you must be dusty. That's fine. That's your social conditioning. I don't want to be around you anymore. I don't want to hear those opinions anymore. I'm not listening. I don't need that anymore in my life. And when you put that buffer in between the two of you, this situation, whether it's leaving a job, whether it's leaving a town, whether it's leaving a state, whether it's leaving a relationship, whether it's blocking somebody, it can be anything. You're getting rid of that old social conditioning, because a lot of times you have two identities that are conflicting with each other. For many of us, you have this version of yourself, like the old version. It could be your inner child, inner adult, or I wouldn't say inner adult, maybe inner teenager more so, where it's like this version of you, even this just past version of your adult self or whatever, that is, I don't know if I should say jealous, but they don't want to be left behind. And so they're clinging on to dear, like they're holding on for dear life. They don't want you to let go of, whatever habits, beliefs, ideas, conditioning allowed them to exist. Because as much as we say everybody else around us, they don't want me to change, they don't want me to level up, they're just jealous, they're just feeling left behind, somewhere deep down inside, you don't want to change either. And it's very hard to accept that. But you have to get away from these other people because it's uncomfortable. You almost feel like you're in this sea of like the unknown. Some people, you may leave one job that was toxic, and then you may start having these beliefs, these catastrophic beliefs where you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to find a job again. Oh my God, I'm never going to make as much money again. You leave a relationship and you say, oh my God, I'm going to die alone. I'm going to have to get a dog and die alone. Oh my God, no. You cut off that friend and you say, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to go out and have a girls' night again. I'm never going to get to go on another brunch date. I'm never going to get to go on another girls' trip. You start thinking all of these things, these really catastrophic things that are not really true, but it seems true in the meantime because you're lonely. And if you can frame your mindset on this, it's going to make it easier to say, I am, maybe I am lonely. However, this loneliness is working for me because now I don't have to be discouraged or judged for my goals. I don't have to be around that type of energy. It allows this, this silence. You get to have this psychological space to just hear your own instincts. It can be really tough if you're still in that old environment where it's like maybe you wake up and you say, maybe you do your affirmations in the mirror. Maybe you journal and you say, this is who I am. This is what I'm going to do. These are my goals. But then because you have not yet accepted social loneliness for a period of time, you're still in this old environment, you're still in that old relationship, and then you wake up and you've set your intentions and everything, but then your own instincts, your own desires get drowned out by the voices of other people. That silence that the social loneliness creates, it may be a bit uncomfortable, but think of it as a good thing. Now I can finally hear myself. I can hear myself think. I can get in touch with my own desires. Because you may have been in a space where it's like you actually thought that you liked a certain type of food or a certain type of pastime or whatever. But no, you didn't. It was just something that came with the environment and everybody else was doing it. And then when you're by yourself, you're like, wait a minute. I actually have zero desire to do this anymore because you have internally committed to your level up journey. But that instinct just kept getting suppressed. Number 2, this is the second reason that social loneliness that comes with your level up journey is a good thing. It reduces immediate sabotage. This is a huge thing. And this is probably something that we talk about more. This may be easier to recognize than some of the other points I'm going to make in this video. But it's hard because people may be well-meaning. It could be whatever it is. But sometimes the people closest to you unconsciously, like I said, it could be unconscious. It could be malicious. It could be unconscious. Regardless of what it is, sabotage always has like a malicious connotation. Like they are intentionally sabotaging me. Sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes it's just who they are. And they can't even help it. Sometimes you have to love, certain dusty people from a distance. They are at peace being leveled down. And if you want to have your peace, you're going to have to take that space, put that distance. Because when you're around them, they are sabotaging you, whether or not they're doing it intentionally, through encouraging or reinforcing overeating, procrastination, self-doubt, emotional chaos, financial irresponsibility, low standards, toxic relationships. And it's all because your growth threatens the emotional equilibrium of the relationship. So there's a certain balance. There's a certain dynamic that you have. And anytime you decide you're leveling up and your habits start changing, your thought patterns start changing, your values start changing, you're rocking the boat. Things are going to be out of balance, out of alignment. And these people, oftentimes in an attempt to maintain proximity to you, they could consciously, but maybe unconsciously encourage some of these things because maybe that was the thing that you guys had in common. And they're going to start feeling like, oh, I just feel like I feel like you're just so distant. I feel like we never talk anymore. I just feel like you're so quiet lately. I just feel like, we're not the same. And this could be voiced, or it could be something that they're just noticing in their head. And whether or not they're thinking of it as like, oh, I'm going to try to sabotage her, it still becomes sabotage. Their motive could be, oh, I just feel so distant from you lately. And I really want I want closeness. And so I'm going to try to encourage the things that kept us close. And maybe the thing that kept you close previously was mutual low self-esteem. Maybe it was mutual financial irresponsibility. Maybe it was mutual low standards, mutual procrastination. And, a lot of people, it's sad, but they only know how to connect through shared dysfunction. So the only way that the relationship can still exist is if you stay dysfunctional. Think about that. Some relationships are not a loss. It's not a loss if it required you to remain dysfunctional. If it required you to shrink yourself, if it required you to silence your inner voice and basically, give up on your life goals, everything that you want to do in order to maintain, because some people, it can be conscious. If you're dealing with one of these, maybe, these people who are starting to get into the dark triad traits and people who are deliberately manipulative and all of these things, this can happen where it is conscious, where, they don't want to be left behind by you. And I will say they want to keep you small. They want to keep you shrunk down into what they're comfortable with. They want to keep you dysfunctional because they're dysfunctional. Maybe, that is how they like you. Some people prefer you in their life in the version that you are. Some people, it's not that they really like you. They just like that you're leveled down right now, and it makes them feel less alone in their leveled downness. That's a real thing. Some people, it could be a shocker if you don't think like that, and so you're like, oh my God, people are like that. There are people who it's whether it is, maybe a family relationship, they only like you. They only are in your corner when you're bad-bodied, when you're badly built, when you are overweight, which some people, you may not have ever been badly built if you are overweight, but sometimes that is a thing. It makes them feel more comfortable to see you overeating. It makes them feel more comfortable about their own habits. Or some people, it may make them feel more superior to you. If maybe somebody is doing really bad in a lot of places, but then they have this one area where they feel like they outrank you and they're in competition mode, then they really would like you to stay in all of the rest of your dysfunction, because then instead of them focusing on their own level up journey, they'd rather focus on you and say, well, at least she's still doing this. Well, at least she still has that habit. Well, at least I'm still doing better than her with this. well, she's not that much better than me, because we still do this together. That's what happens sometimes. Sometimes it is malicious. Sometimes people want somebody who is weaker and they're easier to control and they have less self-confidence. Some people, they view you more so as a role. And if you decide to leave that role, leave that identity, the relationship's not going to be able to work because, they wanted somebody insecure to date and you're not insecure anymore. Or they're trying to make you insecure and they can't make you insecure. Well, the relationship's going to have to end because they want to be with somebody insecure. To you, that may sound like, what? Yes. Or maybe, they want somebody overweight to be with and you're not going to be that person. They want somebody dusty to be friends with and you're not going to do that. They want to conversate with somebody that they can share in dysfunction and misery with and you're not participating in that anymore. That's the only way they know how to connect with you, though. So whether it's malicious, whether it's subconscious, it is an amazing thing to be dealing with social isolation and social loneliness when it is protecting you from immediate sabotage. Another thing is that some of us are addicted to dysfunction. We're addicted to certain things in our leveled down reality. And we may be trauma bonded to certain things in that reality. And so most of the time we will mistake things like familiarity, predictability, and even things like emotional intensity for alignment. But during your level up journey, you may temporarily lose or forever lose the validation that felt familiar to you, the chaos that felt familiar, the attention that you're used to, the attention that felt familiar, what's safe, a routine that felt familiar. You may lose that at a certain point. And to your nervous system, it may perceive that as a threat and interpret that as loneliness. And that's why, like in that other video, I was mentioning that people often end up running backwards. And when you're in the in-between phase, and I think I said this in that video as well, your future usually feels lonelier than your past at first because you haven't met your future yet. You don't know that in that future you're going to be so embraced and you won't experience loneliness and you won't have to shrink yourself and you're going to find your people and, you won't have to bite your tongue on this and that and you're going to be seen and you're going to be heard and you're going to be validated and nobody's, you won't be immediately consistently surrounded by people who are trying to humble you. Like you're going to really feel at home and at peace and it's going to feel so good, but you don't know that yet because you haven't been there yet. But you've been in your past before. And so it's a lot easier to say like, oh, that's familiar. So it must have been right. You may be attached to it. You're used to it. You could even be addicted to certain things and need to experience that withdrawal. People can be, they can be addicted to food. They can be addicted to substances. They can be addicted to people. And it's really, you're going to literally detox and go through withdrawal from this thing that wasn't good for you anyways. You were just addicted to it. The fourth thing I want to talk about, and let me think, is this going to be my last point? No, I think I have a few more points on this. Okay, the fourth thing that, I just have some notes that I'm looking down at because I ramble so bad and I talk in circles. So I'm trying to do better. I noticed that some of my videos tend to do a little bit better when I actually have some notes and you guys can follow what I'm talking about. But so this is my fourth point. Fourth reason that the social loneliness and isolation that you experience on a level up journey is a good thing is that it forces a self relationship. Just like I was talking about a few more points ago where I was saying that silence allows you to get in tune with your own instincts again and hear your inner voice. This is the same thing where without constant access to validation, distractions, toxic romances, social performances, when people are just kind of doing the whole charade of, yeah, whatever, that, feels very hollow to you, it's not real, and you want something deeper and more meaningful, or it's just the same, repetitive, predictable thing that may feel safe because it's what you're used to, but it is not what you truly desire, you're going to be forced to then confront, like, you have to actually get in tune with yourself now. You're going to be forced to confront your thoughts, your own habits, your own fears, your own desires, your own coping mechanisms, and the way you see yourself in the world, your own identity. Because the thing is, if, let's say, you were always sitting there, maybe you had a friend who you guys, your bond was shared dysfunction, and a habit or part of your routine used to be that I would talk to this person for however many hours a day, or I would spend so much time with them hanging out. And then instead, now you're in social loneliness. Maybe now you're journaling or something. Maybe now you're having to kind of reflect on different things, and maybe you're alone, maybe you're lonely, and then you're starting to, maybe you're actually looking at your portion sizes because you're not, sitting there talking to somebody the whole time. Maybe it's not being normalized anymore. You don't have an overeating buddy anymore. So now you're looking at your portion size and you're like, what in the big back shit have I been doing? Like, I do this? Like, this is something I remember very distinctly on my level up journey. And this is going to sound a little bit like unrelated, but it is. And so I'm going to tie it in. I remember one of the things, like, this is one of those swaps. A lot of people talk about food swaps if you're trying to, like, lose weight. And this video can be about leveling up in any aspect of your life. But let's just talk about that, because that's something that I feel like, I have personal experience with, and I'm very happy with my journey and where I have progressed to now. Like, I don't feel stagnant. I feel really good about that. One thing that I realized that kind of helped me was peanut butter, for example. Peanut butter was like one of those, it was like a dangerous food for me personally. It was something where you could easily get a dopamine spike by grabbing a jar of peanut butter and grabbing a spoon. And one of the dusty, leveled down types of habits I would have is I would grab a jar of peanut butter, grab a big ass spoon. I don't mean like a big serving spoon, but how in your cutlery pack that you bought for your place or whatever, or if you're still living at home, your parents' place, whatever, and you have your regular teaspoon and then you have your big tablespoon. I would grab a big tablespoon, and this is the crazy thing that I would do to try to delude myself into thinking that I wasn't doing some big back shit. I would grab an apple or two. So it's okay to eat 1,000 calories worth of peanut butter because I'm eating an apple with it too. No, that's bullshit. That doesn't work. And I remember what I did was I did two things, which is what killed this habit for me. And I stopped doing it. I've never done it since then. I started saying, you know what? No, we don't bring the jar anymore. I remember what I used to do was I started off, I would just bring the spoon, but then that didn't work because then I was such a big back, I would just go back to the kitchen and open the jar again and dig into it again. And then sometimes the jar would come back to me, to the couch, to the bed, wherever I was. And what I started doing was, one, I swapped away from that sugary, really good peanut butter that everybody likes, the peanut butter that's actually delicious enough to sit there and eat a whole bunch of it. I swapped to I don't want to call it the nasty peanut butter, or the basic peanut butter, but the healthy peanut butter. I swapped to the all natural, chunky peanut butter that has all that oil sitting at the top that you damn near got to stir yourself, that is thick and it's not super spreadable and creamy, because what I would do is I would kind of dump out some of that extra oil. I didn't always stir it in to give the creaminess, so it would be I don't know if you guys ever saw the video of Narwa Smith where she's she makes her children a PB&J from scratch. So in that video, I guess that just came up on my timeline recently or something. I think it was an Alex Clark video that I saw. I don't know if I'm subscribed to her or not, but I see some of her content sometimes. But she was reacting to that. It's probably a super old thing, but it's I guess when you're making peanut butter, it kind of starts off as this peanut powder or peanut paste or something when you're first blending up the nuts. And So I would dump out the oil. So it was kind of just, it was drier. It was a less desirable texture. The taste was different. It would be the all natural, like unsweetened, organic peanut butter. And once I swapped to that, oh, not only making that swap, but then putting it in a bowl or onto a plate, I literally would say, this is the amount of peanut butter that you're able to get. And I remember the first time I did that, oh my God, I discovered so much. I remember that one thing that I discovered was just due to the taste of the peanut butter, I ate less. So I made it a little bit harder on myself to be a big bag. I was like, yeah, it's kind of easy to eat a whole bunch of like really sweet, sugary, all this added stuff in peanut butter. It's made to be like that. It's made to be delicious. It's made to make you probably addicted to it, all this different stuff, right? But I didn't scapegoat big food or, the big evil companies. I was like, well, who the fuck told me to buy that one? Isn't there a whole, when you go to the store, they definitely sell no less than like at least 5 different varieties of peanut butter. So it is a choice to get that peanut butter. That's a choice. Yes, they manufacture it, but you're making that choice. So then I realized that in eating something that, I was getting the protein, because that's what we like to delude ourselves. If you are the type of person who has that habit of overeating on certain things and trying to claim like, oh, it's because it's protein and blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, the unsweetened one is still protein, right? It's still protein. So it should be fine. I noticed that I'd be able to eat the apple. And because I was just doing it for the protein at that point, I started to realize like, oh, wow. Like I don't have it, like I would not even be able to finish a tablespoon of peanut butter with the apple, because when you're eating the really sugary peanut butter with the apple, it's like your mouth is like completely full of peanut butter and you're maybe eating this little tiny bit of the apple. I'd be sitting there going through maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons. And not flattened off little tablespoons, big mounding tablespoons. Yes, I'm exposing my big back shit. Just so you guys know, I'm a real person who has had a real life and all of those things. And that's what makes me credible on certain topics. But, I couldn't even make it through 1 tablespoon of the peanut butter. And I realized that I didn't need it and that I was making it very easy on myself to be a big bag. And this is something that I realized in a period of that social isolation, when I wasn't sitting there talking to somebody as I'm eating or whatever, or on FaceTime with somebody as I'm doing that. It's literally just me and my snack. And it's like, oh, wow. And I remember another thing I mentioned, like putting it into the bowl. I said, you know what? No, you're going to put it in a bowl and this is your meal. This is what it is. And you need to confront that this is what I remember when I took out immediately like the same amount that I would have taken if it was like the sweetened peanut butter. And when I ate so little of the peanut butter, finished my apple, was full, and then looked in my bowl and saw this big ass glob, like it wasn't a small bowl either. It's like a regular size bowl. If you have like a new like set of like dishes or whatever, you may have like the little smaller bowl, and then you have like the regular size bowl, like maybe it's like a soup bowl. I don't know what you call it, but it's the bowl. The you know what I'm talking about, a regular size bowl. That thing was dang near halfway full. Like I kid you not, maybe a third, maybe it wasn't a full half, but it definitely wasn't down to like a quarter of the bowl. It was a ridiculous amount, and just looking at it there in that social isolation period, I was like, what the what? Like, I was like, this is what I've been putting in my body. This is absolutely insane. And I probably would not have gotten to that place if I was still surrounded by certain people who are probably either doing worse or they're doing the same exact thing, or I'm just so distracted from my own habits. I'm caught up in the latest gossip. I'm caught up in, what such and such is talking about this. I literally had to look and face what I was doing to my own body. It's insane. But that's the thing, is that's why so many people relapse during transitions. It's not because they truly want the old life back. They don't really want the old partner back. They don't want the old substances. They don't want the toxic friendships. They don't want, for some people, especially when it comes to decentering men, it could be casual smecks, overspending. These people who they feel like their beauty is directly tied to capitalism. It's like I literally have to go spend $5,000 or whatever, however much girls be paying for the braids and the wigs and stuff like that, simply to attract a male. They start really, like, it's not that they want to overspend. It's not like they want to continue doom scrolling. It's not that they want to continue, I don't remember if I can say this word or not on this platform, but I'm going to spell it B-I-N-G-E, eating. Just because I know that sometimes people blink certain things out and I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to say that. It's not that they want any of those things. It's just that the transition phase feels literally psychologically unsafe because you're not around what you have like kind of told your nervous system is your tribe anymore. Your comfort items, the same way that a kid may have this little stuffed animal that's dirty and it smells disgusting and they want to bring it everywhere, or the little tattered blanket that somebody's holding on to for dear life and everything. A lot of these old things are like your safety blanket or your comfort item, unfortunately. And you have to, if you can frame it as, no, this is a good thing, then you can start training your brain to feel safe when it may not see that it actually is safe. So on to the fifth point that I have. So the fifth thing that I feel is like a good thing about experiencing social loneliness and isolation while on a level up journey is that it protects your emerging identity. It is amazing. And this point can get a little spiritual or whatever, depending on how you see the world and whatnot. But not every seed grows well when constantly handled. Like, I don't know if any of you garden or something, that may be a hobby, or maybe you've helped in a garden before. If you know anything about that, if you're like a plant mom or something, you know that certain plants literally are like, leave me the freak alone and I'm going to thrive. Don't touch me. Don't look at me. Like, leave me alone. I don't even want water. Some plants are like, I don't even need the sun like that. Like, just leave me alone and I'm going to do fine. That is what happens, especially when you're in this fragile state where it's like you're trying to become a new version of yourself, but it's still fragile. You're still having your own thoughts about, you're experiencing your own imposter syndrome. Is this really who I am now? Like, Oh my God, it is so beautiful to only have to deal with your own thoughts of imposter syndrome and to not have to deal with the next person over, who it's not even just habits and this, that, and the third. Sometimes it's people's attitudes about who they perceive you to be. Because you have your identity, who you are, who you feel you are, who you see yourself as in the world. And then the world has this box that they have placed you into as well. They have also decided that you are such and such person. And so it's like when you're healing, or if you're building discipline, you're starting to change your habits, you're becoming emotionally different, and you're redefining your standards for yourself, your standard for your environment, your standard for relationships, all of those different things. I feel like giving other people too much outside access too early on can destabilize your growth. That's why I feel like many of us naturally feel inclined around certain people to kind of keep our lips or keep our mouth shut about like a big goal or something like that, because sometimes you just need that privacy to work on it. Sometimes that's what you need. And if your new identity is like, this is who I'm becoming, and that you don't need somebody constantly in your ear reinforcing to you that, no, you're not such and such, you're this, you're not that, you're not a disciplined person, you've been lazy the whole time I've met you, you've never kept a promise that you've made to yourself. Well, yeah, the new version of me actually is disciplined, and I don't need you in my ear yapping about when I wasn't. If you're healing, then you have people around you who the way that they know you, that they're most used to connecting with you, and just literally who they know you as, is somebody who is unhealed, somebody who has other habits, other values, somebody who has different types of standards and whatnot. So if you change that or you shift that, and you're not really stable in that yet, introducing other people can make it harder for you to really stand on your square for what you want, what you expect, what you accept, all of these things. This sixth thing that I want to say is like a benefit to to experiencing social loneliness and isolation while on a level up journey is it reveals who actually resonates with you. Because I feel, at least personally, is like there could be certain dynamics where, whether it's like a family dynamic, whether it's a friendship dynamic, whether it's a relationship dynamic, whether it's a work dynamic, when with the absence of these things, all of those things are normal to you. It could be a way that somebody spoke to you, a way that somebody treated you, a way that like somebody touched you, a way that somebody gave to you, a way that somebody just exchanged and interacted with you, any of those things. On some level, you think that those things are normal. So when you finally say, okay, I'm going to make room, you're working on your new identity, you're working on your level up journey, you're leveling up and everything, then you're going to eventually start pulling in people who actually resonate with who you are now. So that makes it so that a lot of people, you're going to start to realize that whether it's that you had to get away from a situation, whether it's that somebody felt that they no longer resonated with the more leveled up version of you, you're going to start to discover that, oh, you were over functioning in that old situation. Oh, no, you were just people pleasing. That's it. You were suppressing yourself. You were shape shifting. You were performing. You were doing all of these other things, not because these people actually resonate with you, not because they actually are the antidote or the cure to your social loneliness, because they don't see you and accept you for who you really truly are anyway. So it wouldn't cure your loneliness. You would be with them and you wouldn't feel seen anyways. You realize that you were suppressing yourself just to maintain a sense of social belonging. And it's like maybe you belonged on the outside, but every time you had to bite your tongue really hard on that topic, every time that you felt very unseen, or you felt even insulted by somebody saying this, that, or the third, or you felt like it was just directly like in contradiction to who you are, how you see the world, and who you're becoming and everything, you start to, in that period of loneliness, start to realize, like with some distance from it, you start to remember like, oh my God, that shit was terrible. Oh my, I can't believe that I was putting myself through that. I can't believe that I thought that was normal. I can't believe that I normalized never being truly seen over there, never being truly heard over there. That's crazy. And the realization really does hurt, because you start to realize like, oh my God, I was shape shifting. You almost start to grieve the fact that you kind of started to reject your own self in order to belong to something. Because everybody wants to belong. That's a natural thing. But don't reject yourself to belong to something that doesn't even serve you. It's not even what you want. You don't admire these people. You don't feel at home with these people. Nothing like that. It doesn't make you feel any of those things. You start to realize I was never truly seen. I was never truly heard. I was never truly validated. And oh my God, I'm so thankful that I'm lonely now, because the thing that I'm, missing out on is being unseen, is being invalidated, is being unheard. Oh my God, that's such a great thing that I don't have to deal with being invalidated all the time. Oh my God, I'm so thankful that I don't have to deal with feeling invisible all the time, because in order to exist around you, I have to hide me. It's a great thing to feel. I want to say that sometimes when it comes to isolation, we take it as rejection, but sometimes it's really just redirection. And some people, they're losing access to you because your next phase requires a whole different nervous system, a whole different existence and way of moving through the world. A lot of people, one of the things that always holds them back on their level up journey is the fact that they cannot tolerate some stillness, some solitude, a little loneliness. And so they're constantly reaching to fill that space, fill that silence with anything. They don't care what it's with. It's just like the people who they eat for boredom, or they eat because they just want to feel really full or something like that. They can't tolerate a little bit of boredom. They can't. And so they're like, well, yeah, even if it makes me obese, I don't want to be bored. So I'm going to eat something. Like, no, learn to tolerate emptiness and feel like that's okay. I don't want to be filled unless it's with something good. Say, you know what? Maybe the only food available is some big back food, and no thank you. I don't want that. I don't eat that anymore. I don't have room for that. That is not a part of my diet. That's not a part of my my relational diet anymore. That's not a part of my, my food diet anymore. That's not a part of my spiritual diet anymore. I don't take that in. I'm allergic to that. and then just being able to have nothing. It makes it so that you're not going to settle for bad things anymore. I feel like in that phase of that loneliness, that isolation, you start learning discernment. You start learning how to regulate your own emotions. You start learning how to trust yourself. Because maybe you're the type of person, like, let's say it could be your style. Maybe you're the type of maybe you can't go out the house or go to the event, go on the date without first saying, hopping on FaceTime and asking your friend, what do you think about this? What should I wear, this one or this one? Maybe you can't even make a choice by yourself. That's a terrible spot to be in, because then if you constantly need that, yeah, maybe you'll look out and the people that you're relying on to help you make those decisions are good, healthy people and all that stuff. But if that's the case, then usually it's not too big of a problem and everything. However, you cannot always guarantee that. People's motives can shift, and people can mean you well in one moment, they cannot mean you well the next. Whatever that is, learning how to trust yourself makes it so that even when you have somebody who's well-meaning, but you just kind of don't really agree with them, you say, you know what, I'm going to trust my instinct, and I'm just going to trust my own gut. It makes it so much easier to be able to trust yourself, because you know what, I can go into the mirror myself and I can hold up both pairs of earrings and say, you know what, I don't need to worry about what my friend thinks or what my boyfriend thinks looks better on me. I can say, you know what, I have an awareness of my features and my aesthetic and, my great qualities and all of these things. And I trust myself that this pair of earrings is the better one for today. I trust myself that this purse looks better for today. Even things like, I trust myself that I can accomplish this goal that I set my mind to. I trust that I can do that. And I don't need to be externally motivated by other people and things like that. Maybe you do, but if you need those things all the time, what happens when you don't get it? Then you're just not going to do it. If nobody says, good job, you worked out today, you're just never going to work out again. Sometimes you have to pat yourself on the back and say, oh my freaking God, I killed that. I did that. Sometimes you have to do that for yourself. Being able to be in that solitude and in that loneliness phase, it allows you to really learn your standards and your boundaries, because you're kind of at a blank slate. It's like, let's say you cleaned house, you got rid of everybody. Okay, now you get to set the new rules, the new standards and everything. Because sometimes maybe we cut off this, maybe we say such and such can't talk to me like that anymore, or such and such has lost access to me, but no, this person still does have access. And then you're trying to become the person who no longer tolerates this, but this other person is still in your life, and they still believe that you tolerate that, and so they still treat you like you tolerate that, and you almost feel like, I don't know how to reintroduce myself to this person as somebody else. That can happen sometimes. But I feel like without being able to endure that loneliness phase, people often immediately attach to the next available source of comfort, no matter if it's going to completely set them off of their level up journey, no matter what that is. Now, just to kind of put a nice bow on all of this, I want you to know that if you always run backwards every time a transition feels lonely, you're never going to get to stay in the new reality long enough to build community there. If you're lonely in the transition phase of your level up period, recognize that you probably were lonely, in the old reality too. Or if you weren't lonely, it's because you were performing. It's because you were people pleasing. It's because you were over functioning. The real version of yourself, or the real version of yourself that you're trying to become, you can't even become that version there. Because then if you become that version there in the same old dynamic, in the same old environment, then all of a sudden you done changed. All of a sudden you think you're too good for everybody. All of a sudden you don't speak no more. All of a sudden something's different about you, and you're walking different, and you're talking different, and all these different things. But you don't have to worry about that. If you just say, you know what? I'm just going to choose this loneliness, and I'm going to kind of get into the lab. I'm going to, I think that's what people say, right? Get into the lab or whatever, get in the kitchen, whatever, cook up something new. Decide who you're going to be. And you don't have anybody trying to sabotage you, anybody trying to pull you back into old social conditioning, anybody trying to make you feel like you're doing the wrong thing. Because the thing about it is, the people that you feel like if your level up causes you to feel lonely and lose out on certain relationships, that means fundamentally that relationship only works because you're dysfunctional. It only works because you're leveled down. It only works because you're obese. It only works because you have low self-esteem. It only works because you have a fear of success and you procrastinate. It only works because you're miserable and, you have a victimhood mentality. And so, that's what you guys get to talk about. That's the only reason that worked out in the first place. And if you decide to not do that, it's not going to work out. So what do you want more? Do you prefer to be, having the illusion of being included and not being lonely, but the people that you're surrounded with are dusty people that you don't respect, that you wouldn't trade lives with, that you don't admire, that you don't feel like you can really learn much from, that you don't feel like really pour that much into you? Or would you rather say, you know what, I'll just be lonely, and you know what, the community will come. I'm just going to stay here for a minute. I'm going to keep working on this, because guess what? Then you get to walk into that new reality with more confidence, and the more distance that you're able to put between the old reality and where you are now, the closer that you're getting to feeling like you have achieved the goal or whatever that is. Hopefully you never want to stop leveling up. I don't ever want to see that for you guys, but there will come a point in time where you start to shift your identity, and maybe you won't feel so lonely because you feel as though you're brave enough to really be seen by the right people, and you feel really embraced by the right people now. Now, what do you think about this, worldies? Let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, worldies, eyes on the prize.